Okay, good afternoon. I want to just go over chapter 3 for our aesthetic students. Miss Ashley here, and the purpose of this recorded lecture is just so that our students can simply go through the slideshow and allow me to break down the important parts of chapter 3, which is physiology and histology of the skin. Okay. If you are following along in the textbook, this page, excuse me, this chapter starts on page 82 and 83. Okay, I'm going to scroll up. As far as some of the objectives for this chapter, there are 9 of them. You are going to describe why learning the physiology and histology of the skin makes you a better esthetician. We're going to describe the attributes of healthy skin. So we're going to discuss what healthy skin looks like, feels like, and things like that. We're going to distinguish the 6 primary functions of the skin. We're going to explain each function of each layer of the skin from the deepest to the surface. So we're going to start with the hypodermis, discuss the dermis, and then discuss the epidermis. We're also going to briefly discuss and identify the hair follicle as an appendage of the skin. And as I scroll down, the other objectives of this chapter, we're going to identify nails as an appendage of the skin, a very small piece of information about nails. And then for 7, 8, and 9, we are going to talk about the types of motor nerves, the 2 types of glands within the skin, as well as distinguishing the factors that influence healthy skin. Okay. So as far as a foundational science or as foundational sciences, the term histology means the study. Um, it's basically it's a study of the structure and composition of the skin, or you can also call it the microscopic anatomy. Um, and so histology basically um, involves the study of the structure and the composition um, of the tissue. Okay. As far as physiology, that's basically what the skin is going to, what it physically does. So we're going to be talking about each layer of the skin and how they physically function. And then as far as esthetician, you guys should know what an esthetician is because that's what you are enrolled in school to become, is a licensed esthetician. So basically that's someone who is skilled and knowledgeable about treating the skin and caring for the skin and preserving the skin. Okay. As far as learning the physiology and histology of the skin, there are 3 main things that we want you to take away from this lesson. So we want you to be able to understand the complexity of the skin, because the skin is a complex um, organism, a complex dynamic. We also want you guys to understand the aging process and factors that affect the skin's health and appearance. Okay. And we also want you to know how to maintain and also treat the skin. As far as a few skin facts, you will find this on this diagram on page 84 of the textbook. I'm going to just pick out a few interesting facts about the skin. And so for one, I want you to know that the skin is the thinnest. The thinnest skin is found on your eyelids. Okay. The thickest skin is found on the palms of your hands and soles of your feet. If we were to weigh the average adult skin only, is going to measure anywhere from 6 to 9 pounds. And um, we have these cells within our skin called melanocytes. They are responsible for producing melanin. So no matter what your ethnicity or genetic background is, or ethnic background is, we all have the same number of melanocytes. What determines our skin color is basically how much melanin those melanocytes produce, and also what kind of melanin those skin cells produce. As far as our skin, if we were to take our skin and roll it all out on a football field or a flat surface, our skin would measure to be about 22 square feet. So I think that that's also an interesting fact. Also, please understand that the skin has 3 layers. Some people will say that the skin has 2 layers. Our new text, or this current text from Milady, it breaks down the skin into 3 different layers. So we have the epidermis, the dermis, as well as the subcutaneous layer, which is also considered to be the hypodermis. Okay. Also, another fact is that the epidermis is way thinner than the dermis. So the dermis is actually the true skin. It's what we call the true skin. And it's about 25 times thicker than the epidermis. Okay. The epidermis is what we treat as an esthetician. It's made up of five layers. And I'm going to also break those layers down here later on in the slideshow presentation. But those are our few facts about the skin. I think I'll give you guys one more. This one bottom fact that says scar tissue. If you have a scar, okay, scar tissue lacks hair. It also lacks sweat glands. So if you ever have a scar, you're not going to grow hair there. And also, there are no sweat glands that are able to be produced in areas where there are scars. Okay. Give me just 1 second. Okay, sorry, I am back. So hopefully that was not too long. Okay, I'm going to scroll on down. So as far as attributes of healthy skin, okay, so healthy skin. Let me go back to the slide here. So the first thing we need you to understand is that skin is a part of the integumentary system. Okay, it is the largest organ of the body, and basically, it is a strong barrier designed to protect us from the outside elements. So our skin layers, nerves, cellular functions, hair follicles, and glands, they all work harmoniously to regulate and protect the body. Hormones, growth factors, and other biochemicals control the skin's intricate functions as well. I'm going to be breaking down each part of this skin diagram here. So I'm going to scroll past that, and I'm going to scroll past the check-in questions. And we're just going to go ahead and go into the 6 functions of the skin. The skin has 6 purposes for us. Okay. We have sensation, we have protection, we have heat regulation, we have excretion, secretion, as well as absorption. So if you ever come across the 6 functions or need to know the 6 functions of skin, they are here. So we have sensation, protection, heat regulation, excretion, secretion, as well as absorption. We're going to start with sensation. So touch is one of the first senses that we develop. Nerve fibers in the skin sense when we are touched. Depending on the type of stimulation, sensations felt on our skin cause us to feel, react, or move. Different nerve sensors help us to detect different sensations and perceive changes in our environment, such as heat, cold, touch, pain, and pressure. Nerve sensors send messages to the brain and motor nerves and send messages back to relate to the body how to respond. The sensation of heat will cause us to pull away from a hot stove burner. A message sends a message sends messages to the brain through nerve stimulation and lowers stress in the body as well as promotes circulation. Studies have shown stress reduction in babies and older adults when they experience more touch and interaction with others. Sensory nerve fibers are most abundant in the fingertips and are designed to be one of the most sensitive parts of the body. Okay, so here before you, what you have on the screen are the different nerve endings and nerve receptors that are found in the body, or well, excuse me, within the skin. So we have a hair follicle receptor, which that aids in helping us to know when we're being touched. We have the Krause's corpuscle. That receptor lets us know when something's cold. We also have free nerve endings that lets us know when something is painful or the temperature of something, if it's hot or cold. We also have Ruffini's corpuscle, which lets us know or helps us to recognize touch and pressure. And then we also have a Merkel's disc, which is responsible for touch. Then we have Meissner's corpuscle, which lets us know, hey, that's a sensitive touch or maybe a pleasurable touch. And then the Pacinian corpuscle, which lets us know, hey, there's some pressure in the area. Maybe there's a book resting on your foot, or maybe you're getting a massage and the pressure from the massage is speaking to that Pacinian corpuscle. Okay, so that's all about sensation. The next purpose of the skin, next function of the skin is protection. Okay, so I want to read to you a little bit about protection. So the text says that the skin is a thin yet strong protective barrier to outside elements and microorganisms. It has many defense mechanisms to protect the body from injury and invasion. Sebum, which is oil, on the epidermis gives protection from external factors such as invasion by certain bacteria. So yes, oil helps us to fight certain bacteria. The acid mantle is a protective barrier made up of sebum, lipids, sweat, and water. The components form a hydrolipidic film to protect the skin from drying out and from overexposure to external factors that could damage it. So hydro means water, lipidic means oil. So anytime you hear us talk about the protective barrier, that protective barrier is a combination of oil and water that creates a protective film over the skin. And what this barrier helps us to do is it helps us to retain moisture and water within the skin. I will talk more about the protective barrier function later on in other topics. Also, as far as the acid mantle or that protective barrier, it has a pH of 5.5. So that's a common question that we ask our students here. That common question is, what is the pH of the skin? Or if you want to say, what is the pH of the barrier? Honestly, it's around 4.5 to 5.5. It's a range because no two people have the same pHs. Okay, so that's something to know. So again, that acid mantle has an average pH of 5.5. Okay. The balanced pH of the skin is very important to protect the body from pathogens and also to regulate enzymatic functions of the skin. Okay. You will also hear us talk about the idea or the topic of transepidermal water loss. Okay, and so a lot of times we would just shorten it and say TEWL, which stands for TEWL. The T stands for trans, the E stands for epidermal, the W stands for water, the L stands for loss. So transepidermal water loss is caused by evaporation on the skin surface. So essentially, if the barrier is not functioning right, then we're going to have that transepidermal water loss, okay? And as you can see on the screen before us, you can see the difference in the two. You can see normal skin to the left-hand side. You can see at the deepest level in the epidermal cell layers, that moisture is trapped down in the deeper layers. As you rise to the surface and you reach the stratum corneum and that sebum barrier that we were just talking about, you can see how no water is escaping because the barrier is functioning properly. And so with a proper functioning barrier, we're going to be protected from allergens. We're also going to be protected against viruses and other things that potentially harm our skin or make us sick. On the right side, we can see damaged skin and what happens with damaged skin. So as you can clearly see, the moisture is not trapped in the epidermal cells. It is escaping or evaporating through the stratum corneum and through the sebum barrier. And what's able to penetrate are things like allergens, viruses, and other things that will compromise the health of our skin. So that's as much as I think I need to say about protection and a barrier function. If you have questions the next time that you're in class, please run that by us if we need to break that down for you a little bit more. And so I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else that I need to say that is essential to protection. Okay, so the text does say that lipids are protective oils and are part of the intercellular matrix, which is fluid that flows between the epidermal cells, okay? So damage to the barrier layer is the cause of many skin problems, including sensitivities, aging, as well as dehydration. And then this part of the text also covers melanocytes, which I talked about melanocytes a few seconds ago. Just remember that melanocytes are the cells that produce pigment and protect our bodies from harmful ionizing UV rays. So we all have some sort of melanin within us. Some of our melanocytes produce more melanin than others. And so some of us have naturally more protection than others. So basically the darker the melanin, the more darker melanin that you have, the more protection that you will have, the longer it will take for you to either burn or tan. The less melanin that you have, the less protection that you have, and the quicker that you may burn or tan in the sun. Okay. I'm going to scroll past that. The next function of the skin is heat regulation. Okay. Heat regulation is important because we need our body's internal thermostat to always read 98.6. That is our natural normal temperature of the body, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius. So when the outside temperature changes or the temperature in the environment around us changes, our skin is what allows us to automatically adjust to the environment. So we do those things through sweating, perspiration. Okay. Our skin also will evaporate moisture. Okay. We also have the skin to function as well, let me say this better. So the body maintains its thermal regulation through evaporation, perspiration, radiation, and insulation. Okay. And so millions of sweat glands release heat from the body through perspiration to keep us from overheating. And then we cool ourselves through evaporation on the skin surface. So after we sweated, with that moisture being on the skin surface, that's what cools us down, and then our skin helps that moisture to evaporate. Blood flow and blood vessel dilation also assist in cooling the body as well. We also protect our bodies or ourselves from cold by constriction of the blood vessels and decreased blood flow. And additionally, we have natural fat layers within our body to help insulate us, to keep us warm, for example, in the wintertime. Okay, so that is how our skin helps us with heat regulation through evaporation, perspiration, radiation, and insulation. Okay. As far as excretion and secretion, these two words, they do sound similar, but they do two different things, and they basically are regulated by two different glands. So as far as excretion, excretion is basically allowing us to, that when I hear excretion, I want you guys, when we say excretion, we want you to know that we're talking about perspiration or sweating. Okay, so the sudoriferous gland within our skin is what allows us to sweat. Okay, and then we secrete oil through our sebaceous gland. So our skin does both. We excrete sweat and secrete oil. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I need to mention about these two. Just know that our sudoriferous glands, or our sweating or excretion, basically helps us to detoxify the body. Okay, helps us to detoxify our liver and our kidneys. Okay. Also, heavy sweating can cause loss of fluids and dehydration, and also the loss of a mineral balance. So you just want to make sure that you're keeping yourself hydrated. Um, and just like oil, sweat does aid in that protective barrier function. So we do need a little bit of that sweat to help with that water and oil balance of the barrier function. As far as secretions go, I just need you to know that sebum is the oil that is produced through the sebaceous gland. And again, we need oil to balance out the water and to have a healthy water oil balance within our skin to make sure that we have that healthy barrier function going. Okay. So that's as much as I want to say about excretion and secretion. I'm going to scroll on down. As far as absorption is our last function of the skin. So we absolutely do use our skin to absorb different things, and there are three different routes of absorption, or three different ways that our skin can absorb products and ingredients and minerals and vitamins, okay, and water. And so the first route of absorption is intracellular. Okay, as you can see on the screen, the intracellular route, that means that our skin is going to absorb products through the cells. Okay, that's one route. Those products are going to penetrate the cells. We also have a transappendigeal route of absorption. So that just means that if we absorb items through the skin through either of these two routes, that means that we are absorbing things through either our sebaceous gland, which is that oil gland, or our sudoriferous gland, which is the sweat gland. Okay. And then the last way that we can absorb products and ingredients through the skin is through the intercellular route. And as you can see, that blue line is going through this, it's penetrating the skin, but it's going around the cells. Okay, so those are the three routes of absorption, three different ways that we can absorb products and ingredients into our skin. The next major topic of chapter 3 discusses the function of each layer, from the deepest layer to the surface layers. Okay, and so I'm going to probably upload another video. I'm going to take a break here and just post different segments of this particular chapter because it is kind of lengthy. And so I will reconvene and we will start back with the layers of the skin.